Hello and welcome to my podcast. It's Learn Reiki and Connect, and it's with me, Tracy Matthews. So I hope you're well. I hope you are keeping warm because it's been really cold in some places. And so we're here now settling down, and we're just helping each other to connect with that light within as we are awakening and remembering who we are. And that is at the level of our soul. Because this podcast is really sort of helping us to make sense of our physical lives, the experiences that we have, but see it through the lens of our soul. Because what this does, it enables us rather to see our truth and understand and can translate what it all means. Because there is a part of you and I that knows why we're here. And I know I say it every time, but it really is that part of you, that's your intuition. You might refer to it as that. It might be the inner voice, the bigger me, or it might be the soul. But it's the part of you that is the light. So we're just going to jump straight in, and we are going to be talking about on this podcast, are you here to do something? So are you here to do something? And we're going to look at that, because really, what does that even mean? You know, here to do something. And how can you tell what it is? The very thing you said you would do before you were born. How do you even tune into that? And lastly, is something which I really want to talk about, is what can you do if you have a sense, or perhaps you know, or even the thought of what you're here to do makes you feel scared. It fills you with fear. And everything is stopping you in the physical dentness of this life that we have. And it's kind of holding you back once we get here in the flesh. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned and hit the subscribe button, because this information is so timely. So I really want to go back now and look at what does it mean when you're here to do something. So in my own personal journey and in my work that I do, I work with the Akashic Records. I also work helping people with the Usui Reiki courses, and that's online and also in person, and also with the QHHT, which is the incredible quantum healing hypnosis technique that Dolores Cannon has put in place. So it's really an incredible hypnosis. So I help people in my work, and I've noticed over the years just that increasing awareness that we have a plan. And I find that really fascinating. And what's so interesting is that when we get here in our flesh, in the body, and we get here and have our lives, we kind of forget it. We don't remember that. And this is where our guides assist us in getting us back on the path, getting us back on to what we said that we wanted to do when we get here. And I've actually done a podcast that you are not alone. So if you haven't listened to that, you might want to listen to that and sort of maybe put that in your next to do, just to sort of see how incredible your guides are. And the fact that you have played a role in choosing them and helping you whilst you're here in your physical life. So the physical life is really dense, and but it's also a way for us spirit beings to actually come and have what's called a human life. And this is where we sort of experience the emotion, sort of have that illusion of being separated from source. And it seems to be that our planet Earth is that school. This is a place where we learn, where we grow, and where we evolve. And it's really interesting because we can read about, for example, love, but it means more when we experience it. And I think there's some truth to that, because it's a bit like if you go to university or you've learnt a new skill, you know the theory of it, but that's so different when you start, doing the practicality of this, where you start actually putting what you've learnt into practice, because the doing of it is what sort of really is the making of it. That's when we begin to sort of understand it, really in a bigger way. So like I said, in my work of the Akashic Records, I'd like to sort of share with you, because I've come across souls that are here to do something. And this is why I'm bringing it up, because every soul has a plan, but there are those that come to impact others. And I've seen it two ways. The first one is when the soul has set up what I call, or can be referred to as, like a crossroads. And there seems to be a level of choice, so that they can either go down that path or stay on the path that they are. And if they go on that path, or choose a path that they're going to impact others, then there is the support, or if you like, additional support that will help them to do it. Now, there is also those souls that I've seen that have a very clear set plan, and they've put in place a divine time to start doing whatever it is that they said they would do to impact others. And that divine time will sort of come in, and it will culminate in circumstances and, if you like, that opening for things to happen. But I've also alternatively come across those that are here on a specific task, or what is referred to as assignment. Now, these souls are very aware of that. It's quite interesting with all of this. It's like when I speak to somebody, I don't tell them what it is, because that's not my role, that's not my place, and the soul knows what it is, because, our souls have that information. But it's very interesting that when this kind of informational soul level deep memory starts surfacing, it's really powerful, because this information is always met with an internal knowing. It's sort of like a sensing, a feeling of truth. And of course, what happens then, that triggers the next part of their journey and where they are on the path. So really, when it comes to this thing about being on a path and are you here to do something, it's so timely. And that's why we're talking about it. So please don't go anywhere, because we're going to look at the next part, really is what I want to discuss, and some other areas, is how can you tell what that is? And that's going to be the very thing that you said that you would do before you were born here, before we got into the flesh, and the flesh, everything's dense here. We come in and we forget. So what is it that you want to do? So this is where, when I speak to anybody about this kind of subject, I would then be asking you, what is it that you want to do? And this might mean that you have to perhaps sort of think about this, because this kind of question is where you will resonate and have either a desire that's in you to do whatever it is. It might be a feeling. You might have a sense of you just know. You might have in the pit of your stomach that thing that you know that you're here to do, but you feel it in the pit of your belly. It might be a yearning. It might be a fire. It might be a fire in your belly. So what is that for you? So when you think about what that might be, and it could be in many areas, but really it's just identifying that you may have already a sense of what you're here to do, or you might not have a full sense, but you know that you're here to do something. So what is that for you? What's going on for you, even at the thought of this? And it's so interesting because we are all being guided all the time. Our higher self plays a part in that. Our guides do. Maybe you have been guided to listen to this podcast. I know that I get guided and I will listen to certain things. It's like the very nugget of information that my higher self wanted me to know. And how can you tune into this? Well, this is where sitting in this kind of space will serve you. Because this is where it's reflective and we're thinking about it. So this is where we get thoughts. Or you might find that you're trying to put something in place where you can just be quiet, be reflective, and just allow these thoughts to come through. Or it might be that they just come through. You might be washing the dishes. You might be just doing a chore, and then that deep level of thoughts and whatever it is starts sort of filtering through. So, trying to get ourselves into a meditative state is really key. And this is what I help people with because it's really important. This is what helped me in my own personal lives. Because we sit at frequencies all day and every day. And sometimes due to work, we kind of sit, if not in beta, which is our everyday normal doing what we need to do, quite often we hit and go over into fight and flight. Some of you have heard me talk about not only fight and flight, but where you kind of freeze. Because when I freeze and I procrastinate that, I know I'm in stress. So what I have learnt to do is to take myself out of that frequency and put myself into alpha. And then there's the deeper level of theta. We know just before we go to sleep, theta is when we really zone out. Maybe you've experienced meditation like that, or you've had a Reiki session. I do many Reiki sessions where they've been quite almost perplexed because they've realised they've not been asleep. They're not gone into delta. They're aware of what's around them, but they're in a very focused, beautiful, healing state. And the reason why this is so powerful, this alpha state, is because we can hear the inner voice. We can hear the whisper of our soul. It's in that frequency, that meditative state, when we can start to tune in to this kind of information, which is a soul level information. It is what we are here to do, because that part of you will let you know. And you're probably right now getting either nodding or getting a sense as, yep, I'm here to do something. And I always, when I do my courses, when someone's in front of me, I just know it's not by coincidence. And we talk about that. It's just not by coincidence when we are ready to really take the reins. And what I mean by that, take the reins in life. where we can start living in the more creative part, that we start sort of manifesting and putting in place goals and things that we want to do. And if you're struggling or having issues with that, then you might want to look or listen into a podcast where, if you're stuck trying to manifest what you want, because I really go into that just to sort of help us to sort of maneuver out of that. Because unless we're in the driving seat, it's very easy to become reactive, where we kind of only react to what's happening around us, and we go into what's called a waiting energy. We're waiting, and I was quite open and honest in that podcast. I was waiting for God. I was waiting for this, waiting for that. And then we end up sort of sitting, waiting for things to happen, while really, when we start creating, that's a different energy, and it's very powerful. So how you can tune into this, if you are getting a sense that you're here to do something, or maybe you've hit a bit of a wall, or you don't know how to, this is where we put ourselves into that meditative state, that alpha frequency, because it's going to help us. It's going to help you. It's going to help you to tune in to that kind of information, and it will filter through as to what it is, what kind of thing that you're here to do. When I do the Akashic Records, what I love about that reading is that it doesn't tell you what to do, because that's not the purpose of that reading. It really tells you key information about your soul, who you are at soul level, your gifts. And as I've just referred to, there are those that have come here, and sometimes they're at that crossroads, and guess what? That's when I see a person, whether it's for Reiki, or whether it's for an Akashic reading, or whether it's for a hypnosis session. They are at a crossroads. And my role and my work is not to tell a person what to do and what that is, because you have that power, that knowledge and that wisdom is in you. And that's where you will then begin to access that. And then that's like, for example, those other group of souls where they have put an absolute time frame, a divine time, where they will do A, B, and C. And that will happen for them. And then you will, like I referred to, those that know they're on a specific task or assignment here. So this is really important to sort of get into this space, this sense of truth where you can tune in to feel and hear. And I'm going to ask you, where are you with that? Have you got some level of meditation, some way of an outlet where you can tune in? And incidentally, everyone's different. Music might do it. The frequency of music. It might be going out for a walk. It might be when you're walking by water, the sea, the river. These are different areas, different ways which you can tune in and go into that frequency. It might be before you go to bed at night. That's a lot of times when I do my meditation, where I connect with that source energy, because with Reiki it's an intentional method where you can tune in. And equally, if I go and walk on a walk, I'm in, literally just like that. So just become aware of when it is that you are tuning in and using that space or that little bit of alone time so that you can just get a sense. And it's really wonderful because sometimes we can steer that and ask that part of ourselves, what is it that I'm here to do? I sense that I'm here to do something. And that part of you, that bigger me, will always give you a way to help you to hear, tune in, and understand what that is for you. And to follow this is a very interesting part that I've realised for a lot of people, and I've seen it, is that, they're aware that they're here to do something, and what that very thing is full of fear. They are scared about it. Does that resonate with you? That fear. And what's that thing around fear? False evidence appearing real. So are you slightly scared or fearful at the thought of something that you might be here to do? Does it fill you with a little bit of a dull feeling, or in that pit of your stomach, a oof kind of feeling? And it's okay if you do, because I've had many a session with somebody where there is almost like a dread there. It's just beginning to sort of sink in, where we get to a part where our soul says, yes, well, we're going to look at that, and we are going to just sort of start the process. So where are you with that? Do you have a sense of that you're here to do something? Do you know what that is yet? Do you have a sense, that desire, that feeling and knowing? Is there sort of a yearning? Is there a fire in your belly? Do you get a sense that you're doing it at the moment, or you've sort of entered into that part, but there is more to come? So let's just talk a little bit to sort of help those that might be feeling a little bit of like fear, or maybe there's a little bit of apprehension there. Or it could look like, and I've spoken to many of the persons that are in this situation, where they're doing some kind of work to help them pay the bills, and it does nothing for them. They're continually stressed. They're not even in the line of work that they want to do, but they're in that energy because they have to. Maybe that is hitting home a little bit. Maybe there's something that you would like to do, but you don't know how to do it, or how even to get into it. Or maybe there is something that is the area, but there is all sorts of excuses that come in your mind. So this is the result. This is what can happen, which I've seen. That there's something there, but what you do is you put it off. You just put it off. Perhaps you avoid it. Anything about that and the thought of anything, it's better to avoid. Maybe you're kind of in the way where you kind of know, but you're procrastinating about it. Sort of like you can't seem to sort of get to that bit. And procrastination is not my best friend. That is something that I have to deal with a lot. And I'm still working through and how to work through my procrastination. It's got a kind of link to when I'm a bit stressed, when I get a little bit overwhelmed. And this is why it's so important that we understand what these frequencies that we're in all the time. What does it look like when you're stressed? Are you fighting it? What's your intuition will let you know. Are you fleeing? Are you in flight? You go off, you're just avoiding it. Or do you freeze and almost become immobilized, where you can't seem to do anything? There's not much fight there. You can't even flee it. You're just like, boom, you're right there, where you get quite stuck. For me, I know when I'm stuck, when I'm stressed. And like I was saying before, then we've got something, a way to get through that in order to take ourselves out of that frequency. But let's move on, because some things I've seen people do is they know that they're here to do something, but you know what? They block it out. And there's no judgment on this. I've had sessions with people, they do not want to go there yet. And that's okay. It's okay because, our guides are with us. They are so kind. They're gentle. And they nudge us, and sometimes that happens, and then there is like another level of opening or opportunity that comes along. The other thing that I've seen is they don't want to do it. That is very interesting, and the reason why I'm laughing, because I will share something that happened to me with that. But yeah, you don't want to do it. You're here to do something. But the thought of it, that fear, just makes you go, I don't want to do it. So does that resonate? I know these are quite deep questions. They're quite deep. Because we've got to go a little bit more below the surface of our everyday lives. We've got to go a little bit more deeper into the internal inner part of us. And it's so interesting. This does not go away. I have experienced that, and I see that with others. So whilst we sort of go into putting it off, avoiding it, procrastinating, the energy of where we are whilst we're doing that is struggle. Because we're kind of, although we're going on our path, we're not where we said we wanted to be when we were on our path. So does that resonate? Are you feeling that at the moment? And the reason why we want to put it off, avoid it, don't go there, is because perhaps sometimes we're scared of our own power. Or maybe we don't even know what it is that we're fearful of. It's all just one big whole fear, unsettle, and just an uneasy feeling. That feeling where you just don't understand it. There's no way even to break it down because it's just all big, it's all encompassing. So this is where I'd like to share my experience, because it might help some of you, because we're in this together, and this is where I'll bring you back to 2013, and I done a podcast where it's the Akashic Records for Beginners, because round about that time, I started to get a sense that I was here before. I just knew that this wasn't new. And that just didn't go away. In fact, it was escalating in me, and and I say I was like a dog with a bone. I wanted to find out more about the Akashic Records, so I started to do the Linda Howe, access the Akashic Records through her prayer. Very powerful, was able to sort of see me in a way that I'd never seen me before, but it resonated, so there was all that going on. And with that also came a level of fear. And I couldn't understand, the more that I got closer to understanding me, that level of fear started to grow. It started to increase. I referred to it like rubber bands that were sort of all around me. It was restricting my movement. It's like I couldn't move forward. It's like I was stuck. Do you identify with that? Maybe you've experienced that, or you've just come out of a phase where that's been going on for you. So that intensity and level of fear just kept growing for me. It's like the more I was getting to my truth and the me and my path, my purpose, the more I began to become overwhelmed and scared, actually. So what happened for me in 2016, and up until that point, I was pretty much working not only as a Reiki practitioner, I wasn't teaching then, but I was doing Reiki sessions, had treatment rooms, I was pretty much working on the body in remedially, so working with frozen shoulders, doing Ayurvedic massage. I was really sort of working with the body, but on a sort of energetic, sort of healing way and therapeutic way. But then in 2016, I've literally finished what I was doing, and I just saw the Hoover nozzle slip right in front of me, and I fell over it. And as soon as I hit the floor, there was a little voice that said to me, "That part's done." And I just knew that something had finished and that something was beginning. So I could not massage with a broken wrist. So the rest of the 2016 was pretty much taken up with me training to do teaching of Reiki, all the different level courses, and also training in how to read for others in the Akashic Records. And then came the next phase, what I call digging my heels in. And then that digging the heels in was, oh, I'm here to do something. And I've got to be honest, I didn't like what I was here to do. It filled me with fear. So I understand when someone is ready, they're on that path, that part of them is now ready to sort of move on to the next bit, but they're scared about the next bit. Or they don't know how to do the next bit. Or they don't even want to do the next bit. And that's why I call it the digging my heels in. And with such love, my guides, my source, we all have a council of loving beings that are here to help us. And if we've said that we're going to, get to the crossroads, or we're going to put something in place, or we're here to do a task or an assignment, they will help us to fulfill that. So this is the really interesting thing. It might be associated, and quite often is a thing that perhaps you don't want to do because you're too uneasy with it. There's going to be a reason why you can't do it. And this way you'll be able to narrow down what that is for you. Well, what is it that the thought of doing it makes you kind of shiver a little bit? Or it makes you uneasy, or it makes you think, oh dear. Or you don't want to do it. And I would encourage you just to sit in that space. And what do I mean by that term space? Is in that frequency where it's quiet, we can hear that part of us, the higher self, the soul that's going to help us to hear or what is the next steps and how we move forward. We're here on our planet Earth to enjoy life as well as do some bits along the way. That's what the soul experience is about. But we do have a plan. We said that we would meet up with different ones. We said that we would do things differently. We said that we would help humanity. We said that we would help with the new earth and the evolution of consciousness. We said that we would help others in either a physical capacity, learning capacity, or in a creative capacity. Whatever it is, no one's going to tell you that. We can't Google that kind of information. That information is within you. And it's really sitting in that space so that you can hear what that is for you. Like I said, that meditative state can be created in many different ways. What is that for you? Is it music? Is it sitting in nature? Is it on your walks when you're walking the dogs? You know, what is that? Is it in connecting with Reiki? Because that's a very intentional way to meditate. Or have you, your culture might be that you already know this. You already know how to meditate. The 5 elements. You already have that information. So what is that for you? Because this is where we need to find that time. It just doesn't happen. There's so many distractions along the way. There's never the right time. And there never seems to be sometimes in our busy lives. Sometimes we have to make that time. So maybe that is just where you're at, finding that time to get into that meditative state, that frequency, that alpha state that you unconsciously and subconsciously already knows, because we're not creating something that's not already there. We know how to get into these states. What we need to do is create that once we know that we're not in a relaxed state. So, are you here to do something? And where are you at with it? Do you know what you're here to do? Do you get a sense that you're doing it? Are you putting it off? Are you absolutely avoiding it? And like I said, when you're in that avoiding, procrastination, blocking out, and you don't want to do it, there is a level of energy where you're not fully relaxed. You are in that fight and flight or that freeze. Because I've lived it and I've identified that with so many others over the years when I'm speaking to them and helping them to sort of, identify and realise where we sit in life. What is that? So that we can know certain states that we're in. And then we can use and put ourselves in it for the more deeper things. And especially if you get a sense that you're here to do something. Every soul has a plan. Every soul is here to do whatever it is that they need to do. But there are those, like I've said, in those categories. They've put a crossroads in place. They've put an absolute divine timing in place. And there are those that have put a task and assignment in place. And you'll know. And that's why you've been directed and you've just had a little bit of a shove into this sort of space, this podcast for today. So I hope this has helped you. I hope you have found this useful. Our higher self, source energy, our guides, our counsel, they are with us. They help us, they are directing us on our path, especially when we said we are here to do something. So I really would encourage you to keep on listening in, hit the subscribe button, because you won't want to miss each of these podcasts, and there might be some that you haven't listened to, so go over them and listen to them. I'm also on YouTube, Spotify, and I'm listed on other platforms. And if you'd like to know more information, then please go and visit the website at learnreikiandconnect.co.uk. I've put together some help there. You'll find the online Reiki program, level 1 and 2. This is a home learning. This is a way that you will be able to put yourself into alpha. I put this together to help those that perhaps can't get to an in-person, and that don't want to sort of put the level of investment in a one-to-one. That perhaps you'd like to do something home learning that you can pick up and do in your own time. Well, I've done that for you. So check that out. And if you're into dowsing or using the pendulum, then please check out the online course, the workshop, How to Speak with Your Higher Self Using the Pendulum. Now, this course will help you start straight away accessing information from your higher self. You know, straight away I put down a procedure for accuracy for you. What answers from your higher self will be like. You know, versus when the conscious mind wants to sort of interrupt and come in. How to program your pendulum, how it will even move. And 3 areas which will start the process off. And that is your chakra flow, because the chakras are a big show and tell. You know, they really relate to not only physical parts of our body, but they also represent our spiritual and energetic self. So the chakra flow is really key to how you are feeling at the moment and what's going on with you. I've also put together questions and how to find out if you're stuck in life. Not only stuck, but what life area and at what chakra. I've also put in some information about the chakras. Now, we all know there's so much about the chakras, and we do know a lot. But I've put that together of what misalignment might look like for you. Not only what it might look like, but what's your thoughts around things, your emotions, and also what you might be doing or not doing, or if that has now come to the physical body. So that is very, very timely. The other area I've put together is, where are you on the path? There's a whole protocol and procedure of questions that will help you find out where you are on your path. So check that out. Have a look. It's all affordable. I'm here to help people to afford and to be able to get access to this information. So take a look and see for yourself. So I hope you found this of help to you and interesting. Please subscribe and also keep listening, and because we're going to be talking about a lot of different other aspects of ourself through the lens of our soul. So until then, I look forward to speaking with you. Do take care, and bye for now.